Today is Thursday, July 17th. We'll tell you how one of the biggest divisions between President Trump and his own followers is getting more tense and personal. Also, why the U.S. government is now destroying food that was supposed to go to hungry people. And where a major earthquake sent people running. Plus, Mark Zuckerberg is back on trial. More teenagers are making friends with artificial intelligence. And Disneyland celebrates its 70th birthday. Those stories and even more news to know next. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. President Trump is now sharply criticizing both Democrats and Republicans, including some of his strongest supporters. He's responding to them calling for his administration to release documents related to sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Members of the MAGA movement say there needs to be more transparency about the evidence that's now being referred to as the Epstein files, especially since they think the files could implicate other powerful figures in Epstein's crimes, and that the government's silence only protects them. But Trump says the files are just a distraction spun up by Democrats to undermine his agenda, and that the so-called MAGA Republicans are, in his words, weaklings and foolish to go along with it. The president even said he doesn't want their support anymore. Reports say there has also been a lot of internal divisions within the White House over the Epstein files issue, and lawmakers on both sides of the aisle in Congress are demanding more information. In another new development yesterday, reports say President Trump's Justice Department fired the federal prosecutor who worked on Jeffrey Epstein's criminal case. So far, no one has publicly said what the reason might be. The abrupt firing of a veteran prosecutor was once pretty unusual. It's become more common in the second Trump administration, but this one is still raising a lot of questions given her involvement in Epstein-related cases. She's also the daughter of the former FBI director, James Comey, who was fired during President Trump's first term. Conflict in the Middle East seems to be expanding yet again. Israel carried out a series of strikes against the Syrian capital of Damascus. They apparently hit the Syrian military headquarters and near the presidential palace. The Israeli government says the strikes were meant to protect an Arab minority group that's been clashing with Syrian government forces ever since Syria's last dictator was replaced by an ex-militant. Israel has been upset by that, saying it doesn't want Islamist militants near its borders. Here in the U.S., President Trump has expressed support for the new Syrian government, even as he supports Israel. And the Trump administration reportedly told Israel to stop its strikes and to hold talks with Syria instead. The Israeli military said in a statement it's instead sending in reinforcements to its border with Syria to prepare for more strikes. Meanwhile, in Gaza, dozens of people were killed in Israeli strikes yesterday. At least 21 others were killed in a stampede at an aid distribution center, and an American medic was stabbed. The Israeli-backed American organization in Gaza that runs the distribution sites says the terror group Hamas infiltrated the crowd, while the United Nations says hundreds of Palestinians have been killed on the roads leading to the sites since they opened in May. The group's 4 distribution sites are all in military-controlled zones, and witnesses say Israeli troops have opened fire on several occasions. But Israel says its military has only fired warning shots to control crowds. After 21 months of war, Gaza is living through a catastrophic humanitarian crisis. And at this point, negotiations with Hamas to end the war have hit a standstill. To be continued. Nearly 500 metric tons of food paid for with American tax dollars and meant for starving people around the world is now going to be destroyed. And destroying it will cost taxpayers another $100,000. The issue is the food has been sitting in a warehouse in Dubai for months, and now it's set to expire. As news outlets like Reuters report, this was the result of the Trump administration getting rid of USAID. Remember, the administration dismantled the agency, saying it was riddled with waste and fraud. And it used to be up to USAID to manage the food. But a State Department spokesperson says President Trump is not to blame, that the USAID has had to destroy commodities under previous administrations as well. And there's still more than 60,000 metric tons of food stored in U.S. government warehouses around the world. Well, back in the U.S., 20 Democratic-led states are suing FEMA. They're upset about the decision to shut down a multi-billion-dollar grant program that helps communities protect against damage from natural disasters. It offers grants for things like levees to protect against floods, safe rooms to shelter people from tornadoes, vegetation management to limit damage from fires, and more. The lawsuit says every state has benefited, but the Trump administration says the program was wasteful, ineffective, and politicized. So FEMA has canceled some projects that were already in the works and has refused to approve new ones. Now, the states suing say the Trump administration is overstepping its power since funding for the program was already approved by Congress. So far, no comment from the White House, but this could be just the first grant program of many to be canceled, since President Trump is still calling for FEMA to be totally overhauled. Stay tuned. A 7.3 magnitude earthquake was recorded off the coast of Alaska yesterday. That's considered a major quake capable of causing serious damage. Only about 10 to 15 earthquakes of that caliber are reported each year. But in this case, there actually hasn't been a lot of damage reported. A tsunami warning was issued for most of the Alaska Peninsula, and people evacuated inland to higher ground. But that warning has since been lifted. There's still the risk for aftershocks, though. In fact, there have already been at least 20, but as time goes on, the threat starts to lessen. More news still coming up, but first, thanks to our sponsor. If you have a business idea, one of the simplest ways you can start to gauge interest in what you're offering is to create a website. Even if you don't have the actual product, service, or content yet, you can still give people an idea of what it's all about, start spreading the word, and collect emails from those who might be interested. With Wix.com, this step of creating a website is especially easy. With their AI site builder, you can just answer a few questions and get a personalized business-ready site fast. Or choose from over 2,000 designer-made templates that are also fully customizable. It's all drag and drop with AI options. Wix knows what it takes to run your own business and gives you all the tools you need to showcase your idea or actual business in the best and fastest way possible. Having a great website does not mean you need to spend a ton of time on it. Ready to create your own website? Go to Wix.com. That's Wix.com to start building your website today. Thanks to Wix for sponsoring our show. Now back to the news. Once again, tens of thousands of Americans are expected to protest today. Protests are happening in every state all around the country. They're meant to show disapproval for President Trump's policies. They're called the Good Trouble Lives On protests, meant to honor late civil rights leader and Democratic Congressman John Lewis. He was an advocate for peaceful protests and famously called for good trouble during the civil rights era. Today marks 5 years since Lewis passed away. Event organizers say they've confirmed more than 1,600 events planned for today and 162,000 RSVPs. But the White House doesn't seem fazed, saying nearly 80 million Americans voted to put President Trump back in office, and now he's just delivering on what he said he would do, make America great again. Besides protests and marches, some groups are honoring Lewis's legacy by holding moral assemblies, food drives, teach-ins, voter registration drives, and more. New York City Mayor Eric Adams is now accused of running America's largest police force as a criminal enterprise. A former police commissioner sued over it, saying Adams and his inner circle did things like gave promotions and raises to unqualified loyalists, buried allegations of misconduct, and overly punished whistleblowers. The lawsuit is asking for a federal takeover of the NYPD and the appointment of a special monitor to root out corruption. This is the 5th time in 2 weeks that a former top official has accused Adams' police department of wrongdoing. But a New York City Hall spokesperson says the latest allegations are baseless claims made by a disgruntled former employee. Adams himself is still running for re-election, and he has a lot of financial support. He's raised more than $1.5 million from donors in the 17 days since the city's Democratic mayoral primary. Nearly half of it came from outside New York City. Remember, self-described socialist Zohran Mamdani won the Democratic primary, but Adams is still running as an independent. And so is former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. Adams has outraised his rivals by quite a bit, though he's still coming in last in the latest poll of New Yorkers. Of course, all of this could still change with 4 months left to go before the general election. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg is back in court this week. Shareholders want to hold him and other company leaders accountable for the more than $8 billion Meta has spent to settle lawsuits over privacy violations. The claims stem from that Cambridge Analytica privacy scandal from 2018. Investors say Meta knowingly and repeatedly violated an FTC order, that the company agreed to stop collecting and sharing users' personal data without their consent, and then went ahead and sold user data to commercial partners like Cambridge Analytica. The fallout led to a $5.1 billion penalty from the FTC. Facebook also faced significant fines in Europe and reached a $725 million privacy settlement with users. Now, shareholders want Zuckerberg and others to reimburse Meta for all of it. Zuckerberg is expected to testify in this trial, as well as former Chief Operating Officer Sheryl Sandberg and other Silicon Valley heavyweights. The whole case is unusual because typically these kinds of disputes are dismissed or settled. And Meta tried even getting the Supreme Court involved, but justices decided not to dismiss this case. Disneyland turned 70 years old today. The theme park first opened on July 17, 1955. On opening day, there were 20 attractions like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, Snow White's Adventures, Jungle Cruise, and Peter Pan's Flight. But even then, Walt Disney said, quote, "Disneyland will never be completed. It will continue to grow as long as there is imagination left in the world." And just as he envisioned, Disneyland has continued to grow. For example, Tiana's Bayou Adventure opened last year, and the Adventureland Treehouse opened the year before. A new show is debuting today, complete with the first ever life-size audio animatronic of Walt Disney himself. Also today, the iconic It's a Small World ride will feature a new verse, and there are more characters included. And that's just to name a couple of the ways Disneyland is celebrating its big birthday. Next up, there are already plans for a new Coco-themed ride and Avatar Land, with construction set to begin next year. That's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Thing to Know Thursday. But first, a quick break to talk about our sponsor. As I've watched some loved ones get older, it's made me think more about what I can do now to take care of my health even more for later. One way my husband and I are now working on our long-term health and wellness is by taking C15 from Fatty 15. Based on over 100 studies, reports say C15 strengthens our cells and is a key longevity-enhancing nutrient, which helps to slow biological aging at the cellular level. In fact, when our cells don't have enough C15, they become fragile and age faster. And when our cells age, our bodies age too. Fatty 15 is a science-backed, award-winning, vegan, 100% pure C15 supplement that is free of flavors, fillers, allergens, and preservatives. It's truly the easiest pill to take because it's nice and small and there's no weird taste or aftertaste, so it's great. And it's replaced my need to take omega-3 or fish oil since it's said to have 3 times more cellular benefits. Fatty 15 is on a mission to optimize your C15 levels to help you live healthier longer. You can get an additional 15% off their 90-day subscription starter kit by going to fatty15.com/newsworthy and using code newsworthy at checkout. Now back to Thing to Know Thursday. So it seems more teenagers are becoming less reliant on real-life friends and instead opting for artificial intelligence. In a new survey released yesterday, nearly 3/4 of American teens said they use AI for companionship, and more than half of them are doing so every day. The survey was done by Common Sense Media, and for the purposes of the study, AI companions were defined as digital friends or characters you can talk or text with. That includes apps designed for AI companionship like Character.ai, Nomi, and Replica, as well as tools like ChatGPT. They all have gotten to be extremely popular, and more AI companions are still popping up, with xAI's Grok launching a couple just this week. Granted, most teens still prefer people to bots. In the survey, more than half of them said AI conversations are less satisfying than human conversations. Some of them explained they just like to practice social skills on AI before applying them to real-life situations, that AI can apparently teach them how to start conversations, resolve conflicts, and express emotions. But some interactions have also been dangerous, with parents saying their teens have formed abusive relationships with chatbots. And about 1/4 of teens surveyed said they have shared their real name, location, and personal secrets with their AI companions. So Common Sense Media is now calling for stronger age verification, better content moderation, expanded AI literacy programs in schools, and more. Thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you up on more news to know tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.